Okay, hey there, and hello everybody, and welcome to our second Vancouver Island University Cannabis Convention. Thank you very much. It's always a great pleasure to be at these events with so many like-minded, good people. These are very much gatherings of friends as much as gatherings of minds. But there are a lot of excellent individuals that have come here today to speak as well. So not to suggest anyone's better than another, but some of the individuals that are speaking here today have really put their lives on the line for this plant and for the people that come with it. And really honored to stand with them at these occasions. I should introduce myself. I often fail to. My name is Ted Smith. I'm the president of the International Hempology 101 Society, which is a nonprofit group that educates the public about cannabis and prohibition. And we do that through a number of different ways. We have a newspaper we now publish, the Cannabis Digest, which you can grab up front. And in fact, our first speaker, Andrew, is the architect really behind that. We also have clubs on campuses. This is really a branch of the club at the University of Victoria, where we've been established now for over 16 years. We're actually the largest student club at UVic, and I teach a free lecture series there. Normally, it's been put off this semester because of a court case I've been in, which I'll tell you about at some point. But I normally teach a free lecture series that we broadcast live and put up on YouTube, as we're doing today. So welcome to our viewers live, and it's ironic how many more people watch these things later than come. But this is something that in many ways is cutting edge work. There's very few groups or organizations doing education at universities in this context. So we're really proud to be among the world leaders in that. We've had 13 conventions at UVic now and have really modeled this sort of event that we are taking to other communities. And in fact, just 2 weeks ago, we were at UBC and we had a very successful event there. And again, it was just our second convention. It's a very new club, but we're looking to expand far beyond that. In fact, we're right now sort of confirming a club in New Brunswick, Mount Allison University. There's been a student club called High Society that are changing their name to Hempology 101 and become more focused on the plant and all of its various components. We're really happy to be actually working in another province on a fourth campus. And even the Vancouver Island University here, there's a campus in Duncan, and I have students that are interested in starting a club up there. So maybe even this fall we'll be having a convention there. And we're going to be also building off of the publishing of my textbook. I've been working on a textbook for Hempology for 17 years now. In fact, Andrew's helping me put that together. And we hope basically within a month, on April 20th, is the launch date for the Hempology textbook. And we'll be doing lectures at other conventions and book signings at universities across the country. Then I'm not allowed in the States, but I can certainly get across this country. And I'm really looking forward to doing that. So today is, like I say, it's the end of our convention season, but it's really the beginning of the next phase of Hempology 101, something that I'm really excited. Like I say, I've worked on it for 17 years, so it's really exciting for me to be going to that next level. So that gives you some context for Hempology. There's other projects I'm going to talk to you about between speakers here today. But as I said, today is really about getting other people that work often behind the scenes, not on the front line like myself, but behind the scenes with this plant or fighting prohibition in one way or another. And I didn't write it up here, but for those that are interested, I guess we'll have Andrew speak first, Rebecca will be second, Spencer third, Chris Bennett will be fourth, and then Professor John Anderson will be the final speaker. So that's the order. We just ripped through, so if you have to use the facilities, the washrooms are just through there. And yeah, at the end we have a raffle. I got just a few small prizes, $2 a ticket, $3 for $5 for 3 tickets. So if you want to stick around and help out with some of the costs, but there aren't really a lot of costs today. It's really a low budget sort of affair, but if you wanted to help out, that would be great. There's a few things for sale out there too if you want to hang out afterwards. But really today is about learning and sharing. And our first speaker today is all about learning and sharing and sharing people's stories, and that's what really brought Andrew to our organization. Is his passion for people, his passion for people's stories, and I'm honored and privileged to work with him, and really looking forward to having him speak here today. He's a former editor of the Navigator on the campus here as well, and it's really good to have Andrew come back home and speak. So thank you very much, Andrew, for all your help.
Oh, thank you for coming. I'm excited, nervous, I know a range of emotions. I'm not much for public speaking, but I'll try my best here. I just thought I'd start out by kind of sharing personal story, my kind of journey into this realm here. As Ted said, I went to school here. I graduated about a year and a half ago with a BA in journalism and publishing and creative writing. I specifically focused in publishing and poetry and journalism aspect of it. I'll kind of come back to that. So basically, it all started when I was about 14 years old. Pretty ripe age, most kids try their first joint around that time. And I grew up in the DARE era during the 80s, and Just Say No and that whole thing. And it really opened my mind. It's like, wow, this isn't really that bad. This is kind of fun. And that was about it, and smoked a little bit during high school, and then it wasn't until my later teens that I kind of saw it for what it really was. It kind of was a mind-opening experience. And there's a certain amount of truth in it. But anyway, so when I first kind of got into writing, I was about 16. I was really involved in kind of the punk rock scene over on the mainland. And we put on a show one time for a band called Propaganda. They're a fairly well-known kind of underground punk band, and they're very politically motivated. And it was there that I kind of got my passion for activism. It was more social activism at the time. They specifically focus on human issues like Native rights, sexism, racism, things like that, political structure problems. And so I really kind of grabbed onto that. I spent some time talking to them after the show, and at one of their shows in North Van, actually, a fellow named John Splitting the Sky Hill, might be a familiar name to some people. He was one of the key people when Cheney came here trying to get him arrested, and he got arrested himself. But he was speaking about the Gustafson Lake standoff, and I had only heard what was on the news, on the 6 o'clock BCTV news. And his story was a lot different. He told me a story of some people, some First Nations people that were kind of stuck in this town. They couldn't leave, and they needed food. And so they got in their truck and they were trying to make a run for it through a field to get past the roadblock. And I guess the police opened fire, and they ran as fast as they could into the water there, into the lake. And he estimates there was about 70 rounds fired in there. They shot and killed their dog. And I was like, wow, that's not what I remember hearing on the news. And that kind of got me really interested in media. And from there, I started doing my own little writings. I handwrite on some pieces of paper, different things about anarchy, about different social issues that I was passionate about at the time. Can't really remember exactly what they were, but I photocopied them at my mom's work, and then I cut them up into little quarter-sized pieces and hand them out at the punk rock shows. And then I started making a little fanzine. It was probably about an 8-page thing, same thing, handwritten. I'd interview a few bands for each issue and talk about some issues that were important to me at the time. And same thing, go to my mom's work, photocopy them, staple them together, then hand them out. And I got a really good response from them, so that kind of got me going on that. When I was about 16, around the same time, it was one of the big raids down on Hempology. And I remember sitting in my grade 10 class or something, and my friend was like, wow, did you hear what happened yesterday down at Hempology? That's nuts. Why? Why is this happening? And so, like, what can we do? Well, he did the only thing we knew we could do. We skipped school. We went down to Hempology and we bought some pipes. So what else could you do as a 16-year-old? I didn't really know much. And it was really neat experiencing that, the MBC kind of movement at the time. I was pretty young. I was impressionable, and it was just, I saw something that had a very organic appearance to it. And I liked what they were saying was kind of along the same kind of belief system I was kind of developing at the time. And I picked up Cannabis Culture, Cannabis Canada at the time. I think it was issue number 3. It was just, there's 2 out, and it was when they were printed back on hemp paper. And I really liked those, so I picked up all 3 issues and started reading those. Like, wow, there's a lot of information, and this isn't public. So I started really kind of getting into the writing aspect and trying to spread stuff around. I kind of did that at high school. I kind of got involved in different little projects there, and of course writing school papers is always beneficial as well, so a few papers on hemp and stuff. From there I kind of, I finished school, and I don't know, kind of had the social expectation, and I always kept smoking pot, kind of stayed out of the scene a little bit, and got married, had a kid, and then suddenly I'm back square one again. I decided I want to go back to school, so I came to VIU here. I should move over to the island at the time, should have that. And I decided I wanted to go back to school. And my publishing and journalism interest really peaked, and I'm like, well, I think I'm going to do that because I can actually use it for good. I've always been interested in kind of independent media. So I went forward with that and went to school here. And from there, I joined the Navigator newspaper here, and I came on as a copy editor and did that for a couple of years, and then I took on the steering wheel of the newspaper and became the editor-in-chief. And from the beginning, even as a copy editor, I'd write articles almost every issue about cannabis. And sometimes it'd be just short little ones about a really neat bud that I tried or something, and progressively it got more and more, and I did a full center page spread on cannabis potentially being a cure for cancer. And that really went over very well, and the response was incredible. Like, wow, I really need to push this a little bit more. So I kept going at it, and finished my year as editor here, and decided that I didn't want to continue on. I had about half a year left of school, and so I just, I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself here. While I was the editor, I got a chance to meet some neat people. I did an interview with Mick, who's sitting up there. And I was just really using it as an excuse to go check out a really cool garden. But so that was kind of cool. I did that, and then I also interviewed Ted, and that's where I met him first. And I went down there and never ever smoked pot before doing an interview. I'm sitting there interviewing Ted, and we're having a great time, conversation was going, and then I looked down at my tape recorder, and I wasn't taking very good notes because I was really stoned, and it had stopped. The battery had died. And so I started trying to take more diligent notes, and the interview ended up being almost a complete wash. I tried to go and write down everything I possibly could, but it turned out all right. But also that same year, I founded the Hempology Club on campus here. And we did the first cannabis convention, which Chris here spoke at. We had Mark Emery come and speak. I think we were just showing his documentary, the documentary about him. And it was just he and Jody who were here speaking, if I remember correctly. And that was a great event, and it was a full house here. Same thing with the last convention. And so we did that, and then the year after, because I only had half a year left, I could still qualify to be the president of the club. So I did that, and unfortunately most of my classes were all correspondence, and I was doing senior projects. So I didn't really get a chance to do much, and then I'm like, well, we'll just focus all on the convention. Then the teacher strike happened. Right when the convention was happening, we couldn't cross the picket line. So that was a wash last year. So that was a shame. But anyway, then this year, Amy took over. She's right there. Big round of applause for Amy. So so here we are now. Another kind of poignant moment in my life was when I was really in the punk rock scene. I heard a quote. Now, if anybody can tell me where this quote is from, I will give them a prize. It was, "Don't hate the media, become the media." There you go. Here. It's my friend's band, the Hicks. They're about to become famous. It's all satire. I got another CD here I'll give away at some point too. So anyway, Ted got to know me. He asked me if I wanted to help work on his textbook and come work at the club. And thought, wow, that'd be an interesting thing to do and something, bare minimum, I could get a story from. So I did that. I started working at the club a day a week on the weekends. I'd work down there on the Saturday, come back here, work on the Sunday doing the newspaper, and met a lot of really great people. And I still work there once a week, and it's a pretty eye-opening place to work at, especially down in the downtown Victoria area. There's a lot of very unique people, a lot of different classes coming together, and there's like a mutual respect amongst everybody, and it's really neat to see that. There's a smoking room in there, and you'll have the businessman sitting beside the homeless kid, and the mom sitting with anybody else. I can't remember right now, but so it's a pretty neat place to work. So anyway, I started taking on the Cannabis Digest. At that point, it was just a 4-page or 8-page, I can't remember how many pages, 8-page photocopy kind of thing, pumped together. It was kind of difficult to read, so I applied the same format that we use on the Navigator. And so we started doing that, and it's been a really good response so far, and I've really enjoyed doing that. And I've got to meet some really great people. Kyla, who's sitting right there, she's one of our regular writers, and it's neat hearing her story. She spoke at the last convention down in Victoria. So she's got a really interesting story. You should check it out on YouTube. All of our past conventions are on there. We have a fellow who's down in the States, who's I'm going to get this wrong. I believe he's part Cherokee, but it's interesting to see his perspective on it. And he writes some interesting stories. He's actually going into his culture in the next issue and talking about Native rights. And I'm really excited about that article. It's going to be really interesting. We also have Mark, who's over in Europe, who occasionally writes for us, and we've been featuring excerpts from Chris's latest book, and that's been really interesting, kind of looking at that stuff. That's the Cannabis Digest. Right now, I'm working on the next issue. It should be out kind of mid-April. It'll be ready for 420 for sure. I'm also at this time working on the textbook for TED, which is really a fascinating project. It's an incredibly dense piece of work, and I've been really learned a lot from it, and it's really fun editing it and fact-checking and getting all this information. And it's definitely an encyclopedia, and it'll be a really valuable tool for an activist to look for research and facts. And it's going to be exciting when that comes out, and I'm very happy for Ted that this dream's kind of been being realized for him. Okay, so it's going a lot faster than I thought it would. So I wanted to talk about how other people can be involved in the media, taking from the quote, don't hate the media, become the media. You hear a lot about people complaining about media bias, and the media is very right-wing. It's not necessarily that way. Journalists have a job, and it's to relate the facts. Certain sources are more reliable than others, so they're going to cite those sources. Oftentimes, they're citing sources that would be perceived as reliable sources, like the RCMP. And you'll often hear plant counts in value. And you'll see there was a 1,000 plant grow valued at $100,000. I don't know how much plants are producing, but it just does not work. The math doesn't work. And what the job of the reader is to phone or email the newspaper and tell them this isn't true. And the more people that do that, the more they're going to say, well, they'll question the police, I hope, and they'll fact check a little bit more on that. That's one way to get involved. Letters to the editor. There's been a crazy amount of letters to the editor involving cannabis lately, and I'm really excited about that. More and more in favor, especially with this bill C10 having just passed. A lot of opposition to it, a lot of newspapers against it, a lot of editors against it, constant editorials. We have people like Dan Gardner and, oh my god, goodness, why am I forgetting his name? I knew I was going to do this. Pardon? Yes, Mulgrew, Ian Mulgrew, thank you. I even wrote it down. I have Facebook in front of him too. That's the worst part. But yeah, people who are really respected journalists who are out there writing this stuff, and it's being syndicated across several newspapers. And they appreciate when you send them an email and say, thank you for writing that. I've actually gotten emails back from editors saying, wow, thank you, I really appreciate giving the positive feedback. Because more or less, people only contact editors when they're complaining about something. That was my experience at the Navigator. I very, very rarely got positive emails, but when I did, it really gave me the motivation to keep going. So please do that if you see something you like. Send them a quick email, it doesn't have to be long, to say, hey, thanks for writing that article, you really brought some information to the public that really needed to be said. Write stories. You would be surprised how many newspapers will take submissions. Often they won't print them, but you never know. We're always looking for writers. You can send me an email, say, hey, I was hoping to write a story about something or other you're interested in, and I would likely say, hey, I like that idea, let's do it. And as part, you get paid for it. Why not? Just a little bit of effort. The internet is a tremendous tool. It's been very, very valuable for me. I know Kyla, her last lecture, she spoke a lot about that, and it was very important to her too. One of my professors from university referred to the internet as the world's biggest pamphlet wreck. And I totally agree with that. There's a lot of snippets of information that are out there, and it's difficult to interpret it. But what we can do is we can try to give the most balanced information we can possibly give when we're doing that. Citing sources is very, very important when you're putting things on the internet. Oftentimes you'll see little YouTube video snippets of something, of an event, or somebody just on a rant. And there's no citation, there's no context to it. You often see police beatings or something, but there's no context to it. We don't know what happened the 30 seconds before the 2-minute video and the, what have you. We don't know. And that is very problematic. And there's a lot of information being spread around the internet that is being taken out of context. And I see it every day on Facebook. So just be careful about that and always be skeptical. I like to kind of take a note from Socrates and question everything. Dissect everything and question it. Don't believe anything you see until you have proof. You're going to be living in a lot of fear if you believe every single YouTube video that is out there. So just really, and be proactive if you are one of the people posting those, to question it before you post it. I'm not going to get into too much more than that. Okay. What I was going to do here also is I wanted to look at an article that, an incident happened at the end of February in Kelowna here, and kind of dissect it for you so you can see the different perspectives in media. On February 24th, this article appeared. There's several different headlines for it. The first headline that I read from the very first article that came out, possible medical grow up in smoke. And there's a big picture of the house of the fellow. A rough start to the day. That's not so bad. Late country man injured in fire. That's pretty telling there. Late country man allowed to grow marijuana inside his house. Marijuana grower's license goes up in smoke, literally. House fire not attributed to legal grow up inside. Those last three were the follow-up articles. So here's the first article that was marijuana grower's license goes up in smoke, literally. The medical marijuana license that authorized a late country man to grow weed for other people was likely incinerated in a house fire, he told police. The 53-year-old man was injured in Friday's fire. He said he was licensed to grow 220 marijuana plants in his home, and gives the address. I'm not going to say that. I'm not happy that they printed that. Investigators later confirmed he had 2 licenses, one to produce marijuana for himself, blah, 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 blah. And come down to about the 8th or 10th line, the fire wasn't even started by the medical grow. It was started by a grease fire from him cooking. So you can see how that was taken out of context. They took an issue that was completely unrelated, and they spun it. Now here's another, same day that it was printed, late country man injured in fire. A kitchen fire that sent late country man to hospital that morning revealed a medical grow-up. The medical grow-up didn't really even need to be there, but at least they put it in context in the first line. That's good journalism. That isn't. Number one, he's a licensed grower. You don't see people, insulin factory, caught fire. You don't see anything like that. It's the man's medicine, and because it's illegal, it's a lot more dangerous for him to have it. now they've really put this man in an awkward position. Number one, he's injured now, and he's probably going to need marijuana more than ever. With the picture of his house, the address, the block, everything, he's got to move.
Yeah.
And likely he's got to leave town, because everybody knows who he is now. And now that man is going to be a target. I know that the Kelowna area definitely has a gang problem. We've been reading a lot about it in the newspapers, and this man will be a target. And I think that there's a certain amount of liability to the newspapers who publish that. It's not right, and this needs to stop. And these newspapers need to be told that. And I really hope this man sues them. So that was kind of interesting. That's perspective on media. Anybody have any questions? Stumbling here?
Which paper had the negative article?
That one was the Kelowna Daily Courier.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the other one was the Kelowna Capital News, which is the
Right.
more positive media.
Yeah, I grew up in the Okanagan.
Yeah, I grew up in Langley. I shamefully admit that. And we had two newspapers that were like that. The Langley Advance was the very, very right-wing Christian fundamentalist newspaper. And then the Langley Times was kind of more the slightly centered. But yeah, it was the same type of thing.
Are those newspapers black press?
Believe one of them is actually. I think it's the Daily Courier, I believe, might be. But don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure.
This is more of a legal question,
Yeah.
but then when the reporters come to this house, can't the owner of the home say to them directly, I don't want my name, my address, or any other information other than a grease fire has occurred in this? Like, doesn't the homeowner,
Well, I'm under the impression that the homeowner was taken to the hospital with severe burns, and that this information is strictly coming from the police.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I check out the RCMP site a lot, and I'll look at the local BC papers. And I know the RCMP do their own news release with their own news media site. And then a lot of times the news media will just cut and paste what they said and put it on to their paper without actually no journalism whatsoever being
it's
done
off
for the paper. Yeah.
No context at all.
No.
No.
I often, when there's an article in the Alberni Valley Times about, it's released from the police and it's through a court docket basically, when they give out some bad information, like for instance, this grow is worth way more than they value than it actually is. I've often called them up and said, would you like another expert opinion? And because I asked them, I said, to print this and tell them, please call me next time the police said, well, how about getting the opinion from the other side of the fence about there's enough experts out there.
Absolutely.
So, do that as often as you can.
Well, Hudson Mack stopped doing that.
Okay?
Hudson Mack.
One thing
Yeah,
I
he
That's right.
stopped doing that.
That's
He used
right.
to do it at one time. He doesn't do it
Not anymore, no.
One thing I forgot to mention is that I'm a parent. I mentioned that I'm a parent, but I recently just had the drug talk with my son. He's in grade 4. Grade 5.
Yay.
Way to go, Dad.
Yeah, I told him it's going to be heroin. But no, he's in a split class, and the grade 5s do the DARE program, and they were told that cannabis leads to cancer, that it will cause lung cancer. And he came to me asking that, and he's a smart kid. I mean, he knows I smoke when he goes to bed, and he asked me, Dad, marijuana gives you cancer. I'm like, where'd you hear that? He's like, well, one of his friends in the class said he learned that in the DARE program. And I'm like, oh, no. And I wasn't really quite ready for this conversation. I had kind of gone over a little bit in my head, but when it hits you, you're really not ready for it. I started stumbling, and I sat him down. I said, you know what, we really do have to have a long talk here. And I had his full attention for about an hour. And he listened, and
That's good for a kid.
he got it. So what I started out by saying was, number one, those are police telling you about a health issue. They're not qualified to talk about health issues, in my opinion. If you want to talk about what's good for your health and what's bad for your health, you should be talking to a doctor or a nurse, to a health professional. We don't have nurses going and speaking at police conventions. It just doesn't happen. And basically all the dangers that they're talking about with drugs are related to prohibition. I mean, I don't need to tell you that. I mean, that's a pretty cliched thing to say, but it's true. And you know, all the violence associated with it is caused by prohibition. And I explained that to him, and I think he got it. And then I explained to him about cannabis, and I told him, number one, don't call it marijuana, call it cannabis. Marijuana was created so that it would sound more Mexican, and it's racist to say that. And my son's like, oh, no, I don't want to be racist. And so he totally got that. That was pretty interesting. And then I explained to him, you know, like some things are really bad for your system. There's a lot of drugs that, you know, while they're dangerous to use, I still don't think they should be illegal, because then it's people who don't really know what they're doing determining the quality and the strength of it. And that's pretty dangerous, isn't it? It's like, yeah, that doesn't make sense, does it? Like, no, it doesn't. And so I explained that, and I explained to him about different drugs and what the physical effects are, and that, you know, likely smoking a joint, nothing will happen. You might just get the munchies, you might get a little bit paranoid, but that's about it. And then I started talking to him a little bit about how they're going and doing a lot of studies about cannabis causing psychosis. And I explained to him that, you know, using it as a child, there is evidence that may, and I stress the may, that it may lead to some type of mental health issue as your brain's developing. But we don't know much about it yet, and they really need to do more studies about it. And I also explained that stress causes psychosis. And what's more stressful than being worried about getting arrested all the time? So I think that there's some sort of correlation there that's not being studied. And I think that deserves something. Yeah, so I had a really good talk with him, and he got it. And I really hope that that was the first step, and I opened up the door for him. I didn't judge. I didn't say, this is bad, this is good. I said, there is really no good or bad. There just is what is. And you need to explore, you need to educate yourself while you make these decisions. And I'm not going to think anything differently, no matter what decision you make. I prefer you make healthy choices. I don't want you drinking alcohol very often, because it's not good for your stomach. And I explained to him someone he knows has an alcohol problem, and he sees the damage that it does. So I was like, well, you know, that can happen. People are addicted to it. And he got that. And so I really hope that I opened up the dialogue, and that when it comes to the time when he's 14, 15, that he's going to come to me and talk to me about it before he does anything that may harm his health. So I just thought that would be worth talking about. Linda?
Was there a way you approach age-appropriate use in talking
Oh, yeah,
to him? Or
definitely.
did
I told him that cannabis, it should definitely be something that's used when you're adult, when you're old enough to really make rational thoughts. There was a study done that was showing that you really don't have the capacity of making rational decisions until after you're about 19, 20, 21 age. And I kind of talked half it out, I think that went over his head. Because you know everything. He's 9, he's starting to know everything. But yeah, so I just wanted to quickly mention that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all I really have to say. I didn't really give enough prizes away, so I should give some things away.
I'll take it.
Winner back here.
Yeah.
Between 1
Be
and
sharp,
60.
gotta be quick.
Okay, so I gotta think of some quick trivia. When did Ted say he wanted his book published by?
420.
Money on it.
Yeah, 420. April 20th.
Okay, here we go. Pass it up. Yeah, here's another question. When's the book actually gonna get published?
420.
That's up to
No,
you, isn't it?
420 next year.
So I got a bunch of buttons here that I'll throw out to the crowd. You guys can catch them. They're Cannabis Digest buttons. So I'll push them up there.
I don't want to pay.
There you go.
Ah, that's very good.